a party of 4 heroes ventured into the depths of the 9 Hells to oust the Unspeakable One. Sven, chosen of Gigas, Cliff, the Arrow Master, Cyrus, Jarl of Bandmeddyrbyen, and Weth, the expert mercenary, bested their way through layer after layer and foe after foe. From the Iron City of Diz to the gilded Minaros Casino, through the Bank of Souls, across the Malbolge Sea, and up the Colossus of Maladomini, all the way to the Unspeakable One's lair. There, they were able to put an end to her tyranny, but at great cost. Sven and Cyrus were slain, Cliff has not been seen in nearly 30 years, and Weth was lost to the forces of evil in a last-minute betrayal. 30 years later, we enter back into the realm of Sinnoh, where a new crop of young trainers may follow in the footsteps of heroes and gods alike, forging their own paths in the multiverse.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
A universe in peril.
The clang of sword hitting sword.
The beating of iron hearts in chests.
The smell of horse sweat and the clink of bullets being loaded into a 6-shooter.
The scent of fresh, unsullied wilderness.
The galaxy's most unlikely group of heroes.
The rolling thunder of war machines.
The electric energy of an adventure yet to unfold.
An enemy like none other.
The rattle of spurs.
The smell of raw magic searing the air.
The rumblings of an unholy union.
The true power of teamwork.
The bitter sting of a dust storm on your skin.
The clattering of spent lead.
The haunting low of 1,000 longhorns on the Texas prairie.
The
Multiverse Collective.
The spawn of the dealer will break the wheel. Brother and sister, the gap will be closed. War will return, heralding its own demise. The void will then swallow all that remains. A new era will be born from the shadow. Molded, crafted, curated, carefully so. Only with true sacrifice can war be thwarted. But Mother is coming. She knows they will be greedy.
Alrighty, we open on the scene of an evening full of joy and revelry at the height of the Summer Solstice Festival. Bandmeddyrbyen, the future site of Hearthome City, is a city full of lights against a dark summer sky, bustling with people eating, drinking, and enjoying the festivities. Of course, there are the traditional Solstice Festival events such as feats of strength, drinking, competitions, storytellers, and carnival games, but Bandmeddyrbyen's festival has quickly become the region's premier event due to the still new spectacle of friendly Pokemon battles. Only popularized in the city a mere 2 decades ago, this is the event that draws many curious Sinnovians from far and wide. With that, we open on Brutus. What are you up to at this festival here? Where can we find you?
Let's see. You said it was where?
It's in Bandmeddyrbyen, which is the it's one of the big cities in the Sinnoh region, and it's not as big as some of the capitals or religious centers, but it's definitely the nicest, one would say. Bandmeddyrbyen is a city where people are friendly, people are open, willing to chat and give an eye or an ear or whatever they need for help. And because of that relationship between the people, Bandmeddyrbyen is the city that originated really the whole concept of like a Pokemon journey, quote unquote. So Bandmeddyrbyen is the center of Pokemon battling in the Sinnoh region. Outside of the city, there's not too much, but especially because it's so new and people are, clamoring to see these spectacles of strength between trainer and Pokemon. This festival has been supercharged in the past couple of decades, and it is just a mess of people. So there's kind of all sorts of stuff. That's a very long-winded way to answer your question.
No, that was perfect. So I think Brutus is going to be, he's just going to be watching the tournaments, like the battles.
Got it.
Like he's just, that draws him, is just watching people fight with their Pokemon.
Cool. And while we're on you, why don't you go ahead and describe Brutus for us?
So Brutus he's like 6.5 feet tall. He's just a solid brick of muscle. Short brown hair. He's got a beard. Probably wears some like leathers and stuff. Sort of just like your generic Viking looking guy. It's really about it.
Very nice. So you said you're over by the tournaments?
Yeah, or wherever like the sanctioned battling areas would be.
Got it. So in the in one of the kind of larger town squares, there's been a makeshift arena set up, and it's basically a pit with little like podiums for the trainers to stand on as they command their Pokemon, and people are just crowding around. There are several around the city, but this one is kind of the premier one. And at this point of the evening, this is one of the like later rounds of the tournament. So you see an older man, looks to be in his mid-30s, long flowing brown hair, expertly commanding a crocodile that is at the moment just tearing through its opponent. You see on the other side a woman. She's about probably her late 20s. You can see the battle is falling away from her favor. She has a Shiftry, and you can see that the Shiftry is trying to dodge. You see this crocodile stamps its foot, and a pillar of stone rises up. The Shiftry jumps on one, jumps on two, but gets blindsided by a third that comes out from the side of the pit, falls to the side, attempts to get up. The crocodile easily closes the distance and just jumps on this Shiftry, sending up like a cloud of smoke. You can see like a limb coming out every now and again. And when the dust settles, you see the crocodile standing triumphantly on top of the unconscious Shiftry. You see a third person at the top of the pit hold up a flag to the direction of the man, and the crowd erupts.
Oh, he's definitely cheering too. He loves this stuff. And he also, since he's so tall, he probably doesn't have an issue seeing, even though the crowd's really big. Mm-hmm. I feel like he sort of stands a little bit above everybody around him.
Certainly. I feel like there are probably a few people that are in similar height to you, but definitely Brutus is probably a good head taller than the majority of the rest of the crowd there.
For sure.
Yeah. So you can see, this crowd erupts, and you see the guy who is holding up the flags stand up on a box on top of the pit, and he says, "Okay, thank you very much, fighters. Our next match will be in approximately 5 minutes." And you see a good amount of this crowd starts to just kind of dissipate, to go grab a snack or another, fill up their tankard of ale.
He probably does the same. I mean, he's just sort of lingering, doing what the crowd does. He's just sort of here for the festivities.
Gotcha. All right. We will come back to you in a second. Let's go to Guinan.
What's up?
Why don't you go ahead, describe your character, introduce her, and give us a little bit of where she's at.
So I think Guinan's also probably mixed into the crowd. She is unfortunately at a very serious height disadvantage compared to Brutus. She's about 5'1", and just like this tiny, blonde little spitfire. And she's definitely conned another large man in the crowd into letting her sit on his shoulder so that she has a better vantage. to actually see what's going on. She's also absolutely fucking hollering when that crocodile takes down the Shiftry. No illusions about it. I don't think she's drinking, but she's definitely like fully engaging in the festivities. She's though like looking around, like she's looking for something specific. Not necessarily just here for a good time.
Got it. Anything specific that she'd be looking for, or just kind of browsing wares? There's certainly a commercial aspect to these festivals. As you have people coming in from all over the region, you of course have people setting up all sorts of stalls, not only just food and drink, but to sell different kinds of items or like delicacies from different parts of the world.
I think she's mostly interested in any sort of historical artifacts or anything that may be a little unique. She's kind of a giant nerd and is trying to gather as much information as possible.
Got it. Why don't you go ahead? This is going to be the first roll in the new system. Why don't you go ahead and roll me 2d6 plus special defense.
Aww.
And as you're doing that, or I'm sorry, it'd be 2d6 plus special.
Are we saying, is special SPE or SPC on the sheet?
SPC.
Okay.
SPE is speed.
Great. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. All right. That is a 7 plus 1. So we got an 8.
All right, cool. It takes a second, and as this crowd dissipates, you're able to start kind of seeing some of these stalls that are near this square. And one catches your eye. You see a man dressed in kind of monastic robes, and he has a very kind of plain tent, but it looks to be selling different kinds of like manuscripts and religious iconography.
Yeah, I think as soon as Guinan sees that, she's gonna tap the giant man's head that she was riding chicken on and hop off and go kind of scurry over and see what she can find.
Clyde.
Hello.
So first of all, what does Clyde look like? And second of all, where would we find him in this crazy raucous festivity?
Okay, so Clyde's around 5'8", 5'9", short, blonde, messy hair, a little bit of stubble, like not a full beard, but like you know when it's like at the point where it could be a beard if you grow it out for a few more days. He's wearing like a hooded cloak, and he's got like a very simplified like ranger's leathers on, and he has a necklace with Rayquaza as the symbol on it, and he wouldn't be mixed in with the festivities. He'd probably be going around probably to places to see if there's any jobs he can do, like quest wise. He's not really interested in mingling with the crowd. He'd rather just keep to himself and make a bit of money.
Got it. That being said, is there any area around, like in or around the city, where maybe Clyde has found kind of a quieter place to be? Maybe like a storefront that's maybe not so well traveled, or maybe like an area outside of town that Clyde might use to kind of clear his head and get away from the bustle of the city.
I think there's like a bar on the outskirts of town. It's in the bit more rundown area of the city, so we just got so not many travelers go through there. So I feel like that's probably where he goes to clear his head and figure out his plans.
Got it. Yeah, so Clyde kind of walks down some of these smaller streets and alleyways, and as you get further and further away from the main city, or the city center rather, you notice that there are less and less people, and it definitely gets quieter and much more palpable. As you go into this bar, you see that there's maybe 3 or 4 other people, which for most nights is honestly a pretty big crowd. It's a very small kind of bar inn. So the bottom floor is a bar. It's very cramped, but the way that it's lit and the way that it has these like dark wood walls and floor make it feel very cozy, especially at night. And then there's a small staircase up to a couple floors of rooms. But you go ahead and you sit down next to just a kind of a normal looking dude. Looks older, maybe in his 40s. You can see under his cloak, he definitely is trying to hide the fact that he's much more jacked than he is.
Very nice. Cliff would probably just nod at the man as he sat down, and then probably just holler for a mug of mead from the bartender, and then just probably sit there, and he'd probably mutter to himself, trying to figure out his plan of action for the next couple days, and just unintelligible nonsense that only Clyde would understand.
Yeah, so the bartender slides you down a mug of ale, and the guy next to you just kind of nods at you. And after a second, he also motions for a glass and just kind of raises it towards you, and he's like, "Festivals, huh? Too much for me."
Yeah, not my jam.
Definitely, I understand. Say, I hate to bother you, but I'm not from these parts. Can you maybe tell me where an old man such as myself can, maybe find a bite to eat after these drinks?
I'm pretty sure this bar has a menu. I'm not from here either. I've come quite a way to get here.
I see. You carry yourself like a local.
You gotta do your best to blend in.
He kind of gives you a laugh, and he extends out a hand, and he says, "Byron, nice to meet you."
Clyde will put his hand out to shake it as well and go, "Clyde, the pleasure's mine."
All right. We're going to go back to Brutus. And Brutus, you found yourself a wonderful little food stand, and you see, or in your hand, you have a big ol' mug of ale, and you have all I can think of is like a hot dog. So you just straight up have like a hot dog.
Thank you for canonizing hot dogs and Norse Sinnoh.
Of course. My first act as DM, I'm canonizing hot dogs.
Well, we already know a Quiznos a canon in Sinnoh.
Yes,
so.
that is true.
Yeah. You know what? No, it's not a hot dog. It's just it's a nice little like warm turkey sandwich.
I mean, you could have done
like
a mutton leg or a turkey leg too.
You see, there's like all sorts of like fowl-based food at this like kiosk, which is outside of like the front of some restaurant, and it just says "foul play" with like a picture of a Farfetch'd on it. A Farfetch'd holding like a big old turkey leg.
Oh,
so a little bit of cannibalization there for you. And so you got your. And so there's like a guy who owns the restaurant, and he's just like out there. He, brought out like a portable, like rotisserie almost. He's got himself a charmeleon who's just kind of like charbroiling these, this poultry as it becomes used. And so you have a nice little beer and a sandwich. And as you are walking away from the stand, I need you to roll 2d6 plus defense.
13.
A 13.
I rolled double
Okay.
sixes plus 1.
Hell yeah. So you recognize this guy as he comes up to you. And how long would you say Brutus has been in Bandmeddyrbyen?
Not too long. I feel like he just sort of blew in because the festival was starting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like he might have showed up like a week before the festival.
Okay, so even in this week before the festival, you have run into this one guy that has been annoying you to no end. And his name is Aldrich. He is this like He's about 6'1". He's like muscular, but you can tell that it's like vanity muscles. It's like kind of like bodybuilding muscles, so it looks big, but like
There's no strength behind it.
Who knows?
Yep.
Yeah. He has this like red, almost like a pompadour like thing. He has this red beard, and he has just, for whatever reason, he's had your number since you've got in. You may have like looked at him wrong, or he may have thought that you've slighted him, but he has just found every opportunity to like fuck with you, basically. And so you see him, he catches your eye, and he just kind of like grins, and he just tries to like body check you. But what happens is he spills like part of your mug on him as he basically walks right into you and like gets beer all over his tunic.
Because I am strong with muscle.
Yes. And he just kind of like looks, he hates that he has to look up at you, but he looks up at you and he's just like, hey man, where are you going? You gotta watch it, man.
Why have you done this to us? I don't need to watch anything.
You don't even know who you're dealing with. You're not even from this city, and I think you better remember my name.
I don't.
You know, I don't like the tone of that. Why don't we settle this with a Pokemon battle? Of course you have one, right?
No, I sure don't.
And he kind of like looks around, and you see a couple of just like a couple of dudes that are wearing like guardsmen's clothes, like, you know, some light armor. They have like swords at their hips. They kind of walk over. I'm almost imagining, I know this is like a Norse setting, but I'm almost imagining like that kind of like Roman armor, but just with more like fur around it.
Yes, sexy Roman armor.
Oh yeah. And so these other two guys are just like, hey Aldrich, what's the big deal here? Why'd you bring us over here? And Aldrich is just like elbows the one guy, and he's just like, oh, look at this guy. He doesn't even have a Pokemon to fight me with.
And why does it matter if I don't have a Pokemon?
Because if you're not a Pokemon, if you don't have a Pokemon, are you even a Pokemon? And he just kind of like pokes you in the chest.
Fuck, that's a good burn. Damn it.
I hope you have burn heal.
These are guards, right?
Yeah. And they seem, you know what? Roll me two. No, you don't need to roll me. You can just kind of see it. They're laughing, but it's definitely like one of those like, I have to.
I want to knock Aldrich out with my turkey leg.
All right, roll me 2d6 plus attack.
8.
Okay. So you just he's like over here laughing, and you see the opportunity and you take it, and you take this turkey leg and you just whack him upside the head. Like, I'm imagining you like get him right under the chin too. Mm-hmm. And so he like steps back and he's like, ouch. I had a whole different voice. I had a whole different voice plan for this.
I feel like,
and this is what we get.
I feel like this is the kid, you know, from Shrek 3, that's like do the roar once he's grown up. Do the
roar. So you see Aldrich just kind of like stumble back, and it's like you certainly feel the impact, but like you didn't hit him that hard, and it's a turkey leg. Like, sure, it's big, but like it's not It's not like you hit him with a club, and he stumbles back. He almost falls in the pit behind him. He kind of catches himself, and these other two guys kind of pull him back up. And he, you see his beard, it has just like turkey leg, drippings in it, and it's just kind of gross. And he's just like, well, I'm gonna remember this. You're gonna be sorry that you messed with Aldrich.
I'll forget about you. And I just want to turn and walk away.
He does the thing where he's like, of course, I did a visual gag on an audio-visual podcast. That's not going to come up. But he does the thing where he puts his finger up and tries to talk, but then he just puts it down, just doesn't say anything. And he decides that it's not going to be better for him if he chases you. Guinan, you are speaking with this older monastic man, and he's wearing a pendant of the Allfather, which is the ring around Arceus. So it's the one ring with the knot connected. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And so you see some of these books. Most of them have that same kind of that logo on the cover, but some of them have, some other strange things. It looks to be more so this guy's basically selling Bibles on the side of the road.
Yeah.
He just kind of looks down and he smiles and he says, yes, it is not often that somebody of your age demographic is interested in the teachings of the Allfather.
Yeah, how much for one of these books?
Oh, yes, of course. For someone as yourself. I don't know why he sounds so eager. He's just an old man.
He sounds eager and constipated at the same time, and I don't know how to take that.
Very odd.
He's neither of those things.
Well,
but he's just well, yes, for you, 150 polka dollars, and we will call it even. I shall give you a discount to spread the word of the Allfather.
I think she's gonna look at him, and she's gonna look at him a little bit disappointed, and ask, "Are you sure that it can't be just a little bit less?"
Go ahead and roll me 2d6 plus charisma.
For sure. Oh, I rolled a 5 plus 2, 7.
He considers it for a moment, and he's just yes, well, as much as I do live to spread the word of the Allfather, I run a church, and I must make sure that we have enough for repairs. Of course, you understand. The best I can do is 100. She
will nod solemnly, and Guinan puts the money in his hand and takes the book.
And he takes it and he pockets it surprisingly quickly, and he's just yes, of course, glory be to the Allfather. And he hands you this book that it's just a leather-bound book that has that same Arceus ring logo on the front of it, with stylized Gothic-looking text that just says the Holy Book of the Allfather.
Cool.
As you guys are going through with this, you all hear a bell, just like a bell tower. And you would all know that part of the reason that you came to this festival was that Bandmeddyrbyen does something special with people who do not have a Pokemon. It's called the matching ceremony. And so essentially, people are picked by lottery to walk into a cave and receive a Pokemon. You weren't really told much more than that, other than, hey, you want the Pokemon? Step into the cave. Nothing to worry about here.
Jesus Christ.
Is this a Decidueye by any chance?
No. Not yet.
With a bad back.
Oh my god.
So this bell basically signals like, hey, the matching ceremony is getting going. And you would all know that this ceremony is taking place just a little bit out of town. There's a set of old ruins, like just a few minutes walk northeast of the city.
I feel like Brutus would just be, he'd be more interested. I don't know if he like intends to go there to find a Pokemon, but he wants to go see the ceremony at least.
Clyde would probably just pay up and just leave without saying a word. Like the guy's probably still chatting to him, and he just walks away and like straight.
Yeah, it's very much like an Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
This man Byron is just like mid-sentence, like talking to you about like fighting in the war, and you're just like, all right, peace.
Guinan is fucking booking it. She wants to be front row center.
Got it. So as you guys walk over to this area, you see that there are these like old mossy stones just kind of strewn about. Some of them look like they are, freestanding. Some of them look like at one point they were freestanding, but they're all like covered in moss, and it just feels very natural. And you see that there's this like makeshift kind of like amphitheater, and you can see on the like essentially the back wall of this amphitheater is a like a small hill with a cave opening in the middle of it. And you see as people are filing in, you guys plop down and happen to be sitting next to each other. Convenient.
Almost like it was pre-planned.
Almost. Divine intervention, one might say.
I feel like Brutus would just kind of look over and be like, hey, you here to watch the ceremony?
Yep.
Clyde would just grunt.
Cool.
So as people are filling in, you notice a man kind of walk into what is essentially center stage. And you see in tow are about 8 or 9 guards and Aldrich, this guy who he tried to clean himself up, but you can see that there's like a bruise forming under his beard. And he just looks like, for being hit with a turkey leg, you'd think that one would be able to walk that off pretty easily. He looks like he has not been able to walk that off easily enough. And so this man walks to the center and he says, "Good evening and welcome to this year's matching ceremony." I have not thought of a name for this guy. So
Original.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
God, all right, that's majority. My name is Mayor Reginald, and I am excited to be the master of ceremonies for this evening. The gods are strange and they are wonderful, and they have decided on certain people in this audience tonight to be able to embark on the beautiful journey that is bonding a trainer with a Pokemon. Now, I am going to divine from the gods, and I will see where we begin. And so this man kind of raises his hands, and he just looks up to the sky, and he's just like, "Gods and goddesses of the realm, give me your power so that I may enforce your will." And you see this man just kind of like sparkle a little bit. It could be, it could just be like a trick, but it seems, this man, after he said this, he's just kind of like glowing a little bit. And
just a guard behind him with like 4 candles.
Pay no attention to the guards behind me with candles. So he takes a look and he calls a couple of people, some younger some older, but mostly in that like 18 to 24 range generally. But as the way this goes is he like points to somebody, they walk down, they are ushered into the cave by these guards, and then a couple minutes later, you see them walk in, you don't see anything, you see them walk out with a Pokemon. So after a couple of minutes, he points to you, Clyde, and he says, "Yes, you there. The gods are telling me that you are about to embark on a beautiful journey."
Clyde would just stand up, and I feel like he has like a slightly intimidating aura around him, and he would just sort of, walk like he knew it was going to happen. Just that cocky self, and just like he won't say anything to Mayor Reginald. He'll just walk past, like straight to the cave without even having to be ushered.
You see, you look at this this one guy standing like very close to the mayor, this being Aldrich, and he just gives you a look that's just like, "You're not supposed to be here," but you ignore it and you walk right in. So you see pretty quickly that this cave, you walk in, and once your eyes adjust, you see a just kind of like your standard rock, nothing too crazy. You kind of walk in a little bit, and it it twists and turns, and you come to a fork in the road. One of them is pointing to the right, and it's angling a little bit up, and one of them is pointing. It's going straight, but it looks like there's a pretty sharp 90-degree turn left.
I'll go straight.
All right. So as you walk into this this tunnel on the right, you're angling up, and you feel you start to feel a little bit of a breeze that, as you keep walking, turns from an almost imperceptible gust into just a rushing torrent of wind, and you almost have to like steady yourself a few times on the rock, just to keep yourself from falling over. And as you kind of shield your eyes and take a look, you notice the end of a tunnel, and you see a light at the end of it.
Clyde's just going to be like, just think to himself, well, there's nowhere else to go, and he's just going to head straight for the light.
All right. As you walk into the light, you come out on this, honestly, a breathtaking plain. It almost looks fake. You are standing in this plain of like rolling green hills with these crazy mountains in the background, and every so often you see these huge pillars of rock jutting out of the landscape. Now, this whole time, you have been carrying an egg with you, have you not?
I have been carrying an egg, yes. A very special egg that my father brought back from the Nine Hells of... Well, his Gallade brought back from the Nine Hells of him after many years of it trying to get back to... I'm going to butcher the name of this place. Just give me a second. Strandcanton Camp.
All right, I got you. Yeah, so you feel this egg. This egg has been pretty dormant. If you didn't know any better, you'd almost think it was a rock. But suddenly, you feel it start to wiggle a little bit.
Clyde would take it out of his satchel and place it on the ground in front of him just to watch to see what's going on.
Yeah. As you do that, you feel just this massive rush of wind come past you. And you, the sun is shining, which is weird because when you walked in the cave, it was not the middle of the night, but it was definitely night. And, now it looks like it's almost noon. But you see a great shadow block out the sun for just a second. As you look up, you see this massive serpentine figure coil around, and it lets out this massive roar, and you feel another gust of wind. You see this serpent coil around and bring its just absolutely gargantuan head to meet you. And you know immediately that this is the Rayquaza, the Watcher of the Material Plane. And it looks at you and it narrows one of its massive eyes.
Clyde would kneel. You know, it's the deity of the faith that he follows, so he would kneel as a sign of respect to Rayquaza.
You see it just kind of looks at you and it grumbles and it says,
One of my own. I see that you have chosen correctly. And for that, I guess I will do my job. Behold.
And you see it shoot up once again in the sky. And again, it's just kind of like coiling around in the sky. And like when I say this thing is massive, like this thing is several miles long. So just a big old guy. And it coils around and it makes what looks to be like a tornado. And this tornado starts glowing white. And as it is sent from Rayquaza's massive body over in your direction, it gets smaller and smaller until it envelops the egg. And you see this egg start shaking and shaking, and you hear a small crack. And another one. And as this white light dissipates, you see uncurling out of a ball is a Riolu. However, this Riolu is special because where it is usually blue, you see it is a vibrant pink. And it looks up at you and it smiles.
Clyde would kneel to get closer to this Riolu, and then using my level 1 ability, Pokey Speech, he'd say, "Hey, little guy, what's your name?"
It just kind of looks up at you and it cocks its head. It's still, it just hatched. So it can certainly understand you and understand that it's talking to you, but it just kind of looks at you. It doesn't know how to answer that question.
And then he would just sort of speak to himself, and he'd be like, "Well, Dad did always say that this was Sven. How does Sven sound, little guy?"
It thinks for a second and it just lets out like a, that's not what it sounds like. All of my Pokemon sounds are just going to sound like reptilian.
Nah, it was perfect. Don't apologize.
So Clyde would go, "All right, Sven," and then throw him on his shoulder. Let's get out of here. And then he would offer one more prayer to Rayquaza, offering his thanks and his loyalty, and then he'd make his way back out of the cave.
And as you're walking back into the cave, you just hear Rayquaza one more time that says,
Don't stretch it.
and it you walk back through this cave, and again it feels much shorter than it did when you walked, and you pretty quickly come out. You see, back in Bandmeddyrbyen in this amphitheater, and you have Sven with you. And you see the crowd kind of notices when Sven kind of like lifts up its head to look around and sniff the air, and you get a round of applause.
Clyde would keep his same apathetic ways and just not react and go back to his seat.
You see, as you do that, Mayor Reginald just kind of like gives you a nice pat on the back, and he's just like,
Good work, son. The gods have chosen well.
He's going to get a bit cocky and he's going to look at Mayor Reginald and go, "Was there ever any doubt?"
I like you. You're a good one. I like you, kid.
And you see, when he says that, you see Aldrich just kind of like bristle.
And then I'll look at whatever he's called, the guy with the turkey chin, and go, "You got a bit of something," and then just walk off.
He just sneers at you. I will remember this. So you see a couple more people go, and then he once again outstretches his hand and points to you, Brutus.
Me? I did not come here for a Pokemon.
The gods have chosen. Strange, you seem a little older than most of the chosen, but who am I to stop a god's will?
I suppose I will give it a shot, but I'm not expecting much.
That's the spirit.
And as you walk through this cave, you see that as you walk, you start seeing the mouth of or the light from the mouth of the cave leaves you, you see this soft orange light, and it's emanating from what you can see are white wax candles hanging from the walls. As you keep walking, you notice that the stone turns a little bit, just kind of like almost like a dark purple. It might be the lights, it might just be, you know, the ale talking, but you can swear that you see these rocks gradually turn from like a normal gray to like a dark purple. You feel this sense of reassurance, and as you walk out of the mouth of one of these tunnels into just this great cathedral, and it's this underground cathedral, but the cave that it's in is so massive that you can't see the top, and you can barely see like the back of it. And it's this giant Gothic looking cathedral. It has these spires, it has these bell towers. You see these like just gouts of flame illuminating the entire area.
He sort of looks around and he goes, hello? Anybody out there?
As you say that, you feel a gust of wind, but whereas, the gust of wind that Clyde felt was very like rough and fast, this one feels very soothing. And you feel, if there was any kind of trepidation in your body, you feel that it is leaving you. And you see floating down is none other than Lunala, the Mother of Shadows. It is, what Lunala looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of floats down and is just like very gently kind of like flapping its massive wing, and it smiles, and she looks at you and she says, so you must be Brutus.
Yes, forgive me, but the last time I encountered a god, it didn't go well.
I know. I've heard about your tragic tale, which is why you have been given a second chance. Now, normally, this is not something that happens very often. However, I have it on good authority that your business is not finished.
Yes, I have sworn revenge against the being which took Mix from me.
I know. I've talked to him. I've heard the story. I've seen it through his eyes. A tragic tale, that one. But I feel you are destined for more. And as such, I'm taking it into my own power. And you see like a ball of starlight come out from the center of this Lunala and just gently move to your feet. And you see this ball of starlight coalesce into a Squirtle, who looks up and just kind of gives you a thumbs up.
Brutus sort of gets down on one knee, and he sort of reaches his arm out, his hand out to Squirtle. He goes, hello there, little friend.
It just gives you a little Squirtle. Yeah, so again, this Lunala is just kind of like smiling, enjoying the scene, and nods and says, it seems that this was the correct choice. I pray that you, your new partner, will be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish in this world.
Brutus will just sort of like pick up the Squirtle and just hold it. He'll look up at the Lunala, and there'll just be like one manly tear falling, be like, thank you for the second chance.
Of course. And as you turn around, you can swear. You hear, as you cross the threshold back into the tunnel, you can swear you hear just a very faint call of Mix.
He doesn't look back. He can't.
Yeah, and you walk out, and the same thing. You walk out with a Squirtle, and everybody cheers.
He'll just sort of, he's very quiet and just sort of goes and sits back down in his spot.
And again, a few more people go. And finally, Reginald, glows once again. And he's just like, and now the gods choose. And Guinan, he meets your eyes directly.
Guinan just nods and stands up and follows the path wordlessly. She doesn't acknowledge Mayor Reginald. She thinks all of this is a little silly. But she wants that Pokemon.
You can see that as you pass him, he looks a little pale when you walk through, but doesn't say anything. And yeah, so you walk into the cave, and basically as soon as you walk through the mouth, the light from the cave mouth goes away, and you are in complete darkness. You try to hold out your hands to feel cave walls. You don't feel anything other than floor. As you're walking for what feels like several minutes, you start feeling your breathing becoming faster, your heart is starting to race, and you are just getting a sense of dread that is just kind of welling up. It starts in the pit of your stomach and just very slowly moves up until this feeling of anxiety is basically constricting your throat.
I think Guinan just leans into it. This is not a feeling that she's incredibly unfamiliar with. She doesn't normally have a word for it, but it's definitely a level of discomfort that she's used to. So she just plows ahead. I think she even closes her eyes and just has full faith that whatever is supposed to happen is about to happen.
Yeah, and with that, you feel as you close your eyes and you just confidently walk where you believe to be forward, you feel that this fear, where normally it just kind of sits there, now it's kind of coalescing, and you almost feel a power behind it. And your eyes are closed. However, you start seeing a pattern of red, red lines and red shapes permeating through the darkness.
Guinan is going to silently approach it. I think hand out in front of her, just one hand, not both. She's not that much of a nerd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this red mass, you see as you put your hand out to touch it, you feel something solid for a second, and you see the shape materialize, and you see these two giant red wings come out and start flapping. And before you is a Pokemon that you are familiar with as Yveltal.
I think it takes Guinan by surprise a little bit. This wasn't exactly what she was expecting. I think she catches herself before she says anything.
Yeah, and I think it just kind of looks at you. You are able to see, again, you can't really see its face. All you can see is where you imagine its face would be. You see just these red eyes just kind of peer into your soul. And you see a mass of red materialize in front of you. And you look down and you see Sandile.
I think she's briefly thrown off from wondering what the fuck Yveltal's doing here to pick up the Sandile. I don't know why she picks it up, but she immediately picks it up and is holding it like you would a little dog that you're looking at. And looks at her with those big dumb black eyes. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna put you in my purse.
And as it looks at you, you feel these same kind of feelings magnified 100-fold for a second. Fear, anxiety, dread. But again, you feel them kind of coalesce in your body. And, whereas maybe before you would, this kind of feeling would make you kind of turn away and be like, the evolutionary, just oh shit button. You feel that you are strengthened by these feelings, and you walk out with back into the cave mouth. That again, you walk for another few seconds, and this cave mouth just rematerializes, and you're back out. And again, people are cheering, and you see Reginald kind of look down at you again, not saying anything, For a second, he looks wide-eyed, but then he composes himself and he nods.
Guinan doesn't even acknowledge him. She just walks past. She kind of thinks that he's like a snake oil salesman. Like, obviously whatever's going on in the cave is real, but he seems a little too smarmy to be the real thing.
Yeah. So you guys all sit down, and there are a few more ceremonies, or a few more people who go in, but near the end, the last person kind of walks out, and you see Reginald, kind of stop glowing, and he looks around and he nods and he says, "Yes, this is a beautiful crop of trainers and their Pokemon. I pray to your gods and to mine that your journey is fruitful, eventful, safe, and meaningful. May the All-Father be with you."
And also with you.
And then you see him just kind of like clap his hands together, and he says, "I now declare this year's ceremony closed." And as you do that, you see these guards walk away. You see Aldrich like kind of run up to Reginald, and if you would like to roll 2d6 plus speed, we'll call it
10.
3.
7.
All right, Clyde, you are paying attention to your little buddy, and you're just kind of in your own world. Guinan, you're also just kind of like thinking. But Brutus, you're able to hear what Aldrich says to Reginald, and he just like kind of comes up and like very childlike kind of tugs on Reginald's sleeve, and he's just like, "But Daddy, you said that I could go in the cave this year." And you see Reginald just like, "Aldrich, the gods have chosen and the gods have spoken. Besides, you were issued a Pokemon." "But I want to go in the cave." And you just see Reginald just kind of like walk away and like, "Aldrich, I don't have time for this. Just enjoy the rest of your night, okay?"